We have all had painful events in our lives that can lead to depression, anxiety, addiction, or broken relationships. But here's a secret. It is not about what happened to us that causes suffering. It's the stories we believe about ourselves. Join us as we shine light on how to rewrite our stories, avoid the shadows of shame, and travel along the pathway to joy, love, and connection. It's the Finding Peace podcast with your host, Amazon best-selling author, Troy L. Love.
Well, thank you for being with me. I got to be on your show a couple weeks ago, and you said you wanted to be on mine, or at least you volunteered to be on mine.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes. This is the what's the name of the podcast? Finding Peace podcast or?
Yes, that's right. The Finding Peace podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. And I've got a lot to learn actually. Your onboarding experience, your onboarding game. I'm like, oh, I need to take notes from Troy. I need to get ask my web team to do this thing where people can fill out a form instead of just through email. So no, it's very seamless as a
Oh,
guest.
good.
So
Oh,
yeah,
good.
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what makes Robin so amazing.
Yeah. So I'm here in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I'll be turning 40 years old later this month. And what else to say about me? I'm a father with two lovely daughters. I got an 8 and a 6-year-old. I got a lovely wife who we're celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary next month.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was, and I'm a musician, and so I met my wife on tour, and so I'm grateful for grateful for that experience and getting to meet her. I'm a lifelong learner. I went into school as a computer science major of all things, and then I took one literally like just one class, and I was just like, I don't understand anything you're saying. I got out of there and went to my advisor, and I was like, okay, I'm undeclared here. But I ended up finding out that I am really attracted to a lot of the humanities. Is that the right word? Like anthropology, sociology, psychology, things like that. And uh, got my degree in psychology. I was in denial. One of my one of my psych professors was like, "Look, if you want to do something in psychology, you're going to need to go to grad school." And I was just like, "La la la la," and I was in denial. I was like, "I'm sick of school." So then I went in to be a special ed paraeducator. Worked in the county public school system, working with kids with what was then called high functioning autism, which was great. I loved working with the kids. I loved being Mr. Smith. It's like the janitor and the gym teacher, and then Mr. Smith, and then everyone else is just where I've always been surrounded by women. And then go figure, I go into grad school, go into counseling. Again, we were actually the first cohort at Maryland with 4 guys in the program. It's like this program has never had 4 guys before. It's like, oh wow. So I went to study marriage and family therapy, and so I've been a marriage and family therapist for 10 years. And now I'm I'm keeping one leg in, clinical marriage and family therapy, and I'm putting my other leg into the realm of spirituality. I'm kind of, I want to exist in both realms and in the convergence of psychotherapy and spirituality. So I'm adding spiritual healing as a service later this year. And so I have a wait list for people to join for that. And it's an amazing journey, never could have predicted it, but that's in a nutshell who I am and what I'm up to.
Well, welcome to the Finding Peace podcast. So
Thank you.
How this format works is there something in your life that's going on right now that you would like to have a little bit more peace, joy, assurance about than you already have right now?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is finances. Yeah, that sexy topic. Yeah. So, and it is, let me check here inside because it's the first thing. Probably means we should go with it, but let me just check here.
Sure.
Where else do I need peace? Well, then there's also, there's, fathering challenges, parenting challenges, parenting young children, and some of the tantruming and, but honestly, the finances actually is more challenging these days. Um, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the 2 contenders. Those are my nervous system says, "Here you go, Robin, you get to choose. Here's the menu." There's probably a 3rd menu option hiding in the shadows that's like, "No, we're not gonna let Robin talk about this on mic." So so yeah, let's go with finances. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through what we call the finding peace process.
Okay.
That's that's the newest version of this podcast. We did it last season. It worked out really well. So some of the people who do it don't necessarily want their identity known. So I don't ask a lot about their background unless they want to share. So
Mhm.
since they're a little bit more open, I think that's okay.
I'm very much an open book. Yes.
I appreciate that. So it always starts out with the facts. So if you could see on a camera or on a piece of paper the instance or the situation regarding finances, and I could see it, I could look at it, what would I see?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you would okay, if I could look at it on a camera,
Mm-hmm.
like a picture, like on a TV screen or a computer screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so okay, so here's the image that comes to me. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm sort of hunched not hunched over, I'm leaning with my elbows on my desk and I've got both hands on my head and kind of like comic book style, there's 2 like thought bubbles
Yeah.
and on bubble 1 on the left, there's like my my parents, like my ancestors, so the beliefs around like saving money and, responsible financial management, um, and offering guidance on financial literacy and all that stuff. And then on the other thought bubble, there's the like, I'm not, uh, you know, 14 anymore. I'm like I said, I'm going to be 40 and I'm married. And so I have this like financial sovereignty and financial privacy with my spouse and kind of making financial decisions independent of like spouse and then from spouse's perspective like in-laws and so the some sort of tension and conflict around like how the couple that is me and my wife navigating like finances that maybe doesn't always honor like the legacy beliefs.
Is there a financial decision that you and your wife are trying to make that's stirring all of this up?
A singular? No. It's like it's perpetual. It's
Got it.
perpetual, Troy, perpetual. So we could just any given month there,
So
uh
every time you sit down to pay the bills or look at your bank statements, all that
well,
stuff.
anything larger than like, $100 or $250 expense or
Mm,
something like take for example, like planning a birthday party. Like, oh, our kid's turning 6 and like here's the birthday party. But can we actually get these things for the birthday party? Like, you
got
know,
it.
yeah,
Perfect.
that's just an example.
No, that's beautiful. That's that's the actual fact that I'm looking at. So yes, you did beautifully that. So one of the facts is you and your wife are planning a birthday party for your 6-year-old, and
This
that's
is
the
the
fact.
past. It's already happened.
Oh,
But
okay,
yeah,
good.
but
Okay. So when all that stuff gets stirred up, what happens based on the model is I got to move so you can see those words a little better.
sure.
So what happens is it hits one of what I call our attachment wounds. As we're growing up, these wounds are created because we are wired for connection. And if something happens that causes harm or can be damaging, has the potential and oftentimes does create these wounds that exist in our body that for a lot of us don't ever really realize that they're there. And so we don't tend to them. And so they can get really tender and painful. So you're pretty smart. You can see all of those words behind me as you take a look at those wounds. Which ones are you think are connected to this financial situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask for your help in me
Sure.
drilling down because I do have some intellectual parts that want to lead me down this. So, the first word that I associate too freely is control.
Okay.
Control, and that's particularly around on my parents' side. So the felt sense of uh, you know not trusting me to take control of my own financial house and put my financial house in order and make, smart decisions for the future. And again, that's yeah.
So
So
if they didn't trust you, what did they do?
mhm. Over manage. So like, some parents, again, this is my intellectual part, so I'm speaking for it. Some parents, like, they don't provide any guidance. Some parents provide like too much unsolicited guidance. Some parents like just be like, "Oh, you're 18, you're on your own, like figure it out," right? Like, and so I think I'm on those two continuum. It's the over managing, like not being like, you know what, you'll figure this out. We're here if you need anything. Otherwise, like, good luck to you. Sort of letting it be if you want guidance, you come to us rather than like engineering the financial situation to be around like how and when I learn things and make financial decisions. So I mean, that's so if I fit it into the wounding, it's not neglect. Uh
Well, did they teach you that, or they just did it for you?
a little of column A, a little of column B. I would
Mhm.
say I'd say when I look at your words here, lo- loss stands out as the loss of like, you know a normal 18-year-old who's developing their own financial swim legs and can swim on their own, rather than every time we go swim in the metaphorical financial ocean, we're always going to get into our parents boat and we're always going to wear like our parents life jacket, and so that's
Yeah.
the imagery of like, so the loss of that freedom, independence, and
Hmm.
sovereignty, I would say, for my 19-year-old self and 20-year-old self, etc. And
Sure.
all of my 20s, frankly, and
Yeah.
into my 30s, sadly. Um, so yeah, neglected to me, neglect, it's kind of like the opposite, right? It's like
Yeah.
the what was neglected was the allowing an individual to develop properly. I think we could frame it that way, that was neglected.
Perfect.
Rejection of my capabilities. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know about abandonment. I mean, I'm framing my experience to connect with the words, but I don't. Yeah, it's just it feels like over involvement rather than under involvement, which was why abandonment and neglect don't really resonate. So
Yeah. So loss, some loss, well, a lot of loss, and maybe a little bit of rejection.
yeah, I mean, they're all powerful words. Again, I could. It doesn't feel like I'm wiggling into it with betrayal, but I could see like, oh, I've betrayed. Like if I put myself in that situation as let's say a dad to my daughters, and my daughters are growing up, and I've done something too much on their behalf and for them, have I betrayed their selfhood and their agency? So I think you can, again, you're hearing from my my
Yeah. Yeah.
intellectual guy who can kind of frame it or spin it in a way that you can use
Yep.
that word, but that's just the spirit of it, is kind of like over managing, over controlling, and not trusting an individual to like sort it out themselves, or trust that they will let them go and they will come back and ask for guidance if it's wanted. But you have to let go of all the hard work that you put into, and not just you, but ancestrally, right?
Hmm.
There's legacy resources here that are being maybe overprotected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So close your eyes and take a deep breath. and just
Mhm.
kind of do a body scan for me from the top of your head down to your toes. And where do you feel this wounding in your body?
Well, I'll share it's the upper chest and almost towards the throat, and the expression is actually self-betrayal, that I betrayed myself, by
Mm,
not standing up or advocating for, uh, my autonomy or my independence. So the it's in the throat, like a, when a voice is being, um, suppressed.
mm,
Yeah, it's in the throat.
got it. So you've kind of lost your voice a little bit.
Mm.
It's not actually the wound that causes the suffering, it's what we've come to believe about ourselves as a result. So, as there's usually three genres of core beliefs that get woven into this experience, into these wounds. The first genre is about me. I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. I'm dumb. Those kind of things. So the second genre is safety or trust. I can't depend on other people. Other people don't show up. Like it's all about safety and how we perceive the world around us. And then the third genre is powerlessness. Like there's nothing I can do, no matter how hard I try. It's just never going to get any better. So as you think about that wound in your throat, that experience, that pressure that you're experiencing, what's the core belief that's most associated with that?
I'm not allowed.
Mm,
That's obviously the first part of the sentence.
mhm,
But, that's very clear. I'm not allowed. There's several things. So, I'm not allowed to, you know, have my own wants and preferences about what to do with these legacy resources. I'm not allowed to spend this money the way I might want to. It's not, that's off limits. That's This money has been, um, bucketed and categorized for certain purposes that were determined by generations before me, and so therefore I have to follow those rules. Um, I'm not allowed to, yeah, even speak for those. Uh, to speak for those wants would be a betrayal, of my ancestors, of my family. I would be breaking the rules. Um, Also, if I speak up and challenge, uh, the intention or the purpose of these funds, then I will be punished for doing so. And that punishment could, um, take the form of, well, technically this money is in your name, but no inheritance for you. You're out of the will. Like, there's don't, kind of like a financial punishment of some sort,
yeah,
So there's again, I know that feelings are valid, but whether that's actually true or not, that's what the younger me,
yep,
yeah, is somehow got the message of like, you'll be punished for this if you, yeah. So that
beautiful.
shows up for me.
Yep, beautiful. And when that shows up, you just mentioned emotions. What core emotions do you then feel?
Well, yeah, no coincidence that that anger's at the top of the list there, because obviously, um, yeah, it can be angering to feel suppressed or to feel dictated, even though there are benevolent intentions about future self, all that. So anger is there directed towards, um, it's kind of like more directed towards my dad, but my mom doesn't get off scot free here. there's like there's sort of like, well, the parents are a united front, and my dad is like leading. He's like the captain, and my mom is less involved, and yet there's anger towards kind of the unit for um, being so rigid, uh,
Yeah.
being so rigid, and uh, yeah, um, not integrating my wants and um, maybe dreams. Yeah, so anger's kind of one of the first ones that shows up. There's actually very much a obviously I named fear right earlier about the fear of being punished or the fear of future loss. But there's a lot of sadness and hurt around like in any instance of like someone who's supposed to love you and nurture you and encourage you. There is there's a sense of sadness and hurt around, well, if that person is punishing you on purpose, um, yeah, that's a big like it's like a big rock comes through your windshield in the
Mhm.
in the hull of the craft or the vehicle of love. Like, oh, you broke part of me as a being that receives your love. You know, when when you punish me. Not that, by the way, and not that that punishment never happened. There was the fear of that
Right.
punishment.
I get it.
Um, yeah.
So anger comes from a sense that something was taken from you without your consent. So what was taken without your permission?
Well, this is why I talk about self betrayal because I feel actually complicit that it wasn't taken without my permission, that it was taken with my permission
Mm.
implicitly.
What
Implicitly.
was taken?
Yeah. My like I said, kind of like my vision or dreams or beliefs or preferences, wants, needs about um yeah, how and when to learn to manage my own finances.
And where do you feel the anger in your body?
Yeah, it tingles in my hands. Um, um, Give me a second. Yeah, my jaw, my hands and my jaw.
And sadness
Mhm.
comes from a sense that you've lost something. It's probably not going to come back. You feel like what do you feel like you've lost?
I really appreciate. And I feel it welling up now, naming it. I really appreciate that question. Really appreciate it. And I'm glad I have tissues on my desk.
I should have warned people.
No, this is my virtual therapy office. I should have tissues here, right? Yeah, the loss for the guy, my 20-year-old guy, like yeah, the sense of like actual true independence that is supposed to come, albeit like very young, like technically not a minor anymore when I'm 18, but like the loss of um like self-efficacy, autonomy, in like, oh, I know how to like do my own taxes. I know how to if I have resources and they can be invested, I'm being given the choice of how much I want to. This gets a little sticky, Troy, because there's a conflicting belief system in here
Hmm?
that's like, no, no, you did have a choice, and like you just you wanted to focus on like girls and music and college, and like you just said, yeah, whatever, like yeah, you deal with this, dad, right? Like, so there's a conflicting narrative
Of
that's what
course.
it comes back to the self betrayal. That's what that does. It comes back to like I gave permission for forestalled development,
Got
or
it.
delayed development. So that's the sadness for that guy. The guy I'm, grieving the 20-year-old Robin that quote unquote could have otherwise, advocated for, or drawn a boundary around. No, this is like, I don't want to schedule financial meetings like with you and a financial advisor. Like I want to do this on my own, and not with, yeah, guidance. Yeah, it's
You're,
complex. There's
you're doing
layers
so
here.
good. I'm going to try and make it less complex right now.
Okay, perfect.
So, kind of what you're alluding to, even though you didn't know it, is what I call the shadows of shame.
Hmm.
You are an IFS therapist, so you're familiar with this type of concept. I think one of the differences with this is I actually gave them names, and I don't know if IFS they give them specific names. They have roles, but
Yeah.
so I'm going to introduce them to you, and then you can tell me which ones have been hovering around you. And so we'll start with the judge. The judge is, and what I do with these, what I do with these is instead of imagining that they're in my head, I imagine that they're outside, and I actually imagine that they are different characters than me,
Yes.
and they look different than me. They act different than me. They wear different clothing. They may not even be human. So as I start to um, introduce these, what I would like you to do is just kind of in your mind imagine what they might look like. So the first is the judge. Also, for a lot of people, it's also the inner critic, but it's that voice that tells you that you've failed, you haven't tried hard enough, this is all your fault, you should have done better. Its favorite word is should or shouldn't. If you had just done more of this or that, then this other thing would have happened better, and you didn't. You didn't, so you failed, and you got to try harder. On the flip side of that, the judge really tells you that you're worthless, that you have no value, but if you try hard enough and you are perfect enough, you'll earn it. On the flip side of that, we have the royal, and the royal tells you that you're better than everybody else, that people should just understand like how amazing you are, and they should just really bow down and worship your feet, and they should just recognize that you should be able to get whatever you want whenever you want it, that just you don't really need to worry about other people because you are just so much better than them. The politician is really worried about how people perceive you. The politician really wants people to like you, to accept you, to see you as well. So the politician is always wanting people's votes, always asking for people's votes. And so the way that the politician works is it tells you to pretend. It tells you to lie. It tells you to put on a mask, make sure that everything looks really good on the outside. Don't let them see on the inside, because the biggest claim that the politician has is if they find out, something really bad is going to happen to you. You're going to be rejected. People are not going to vote for you. So don't let them see. You just got to go out there and put on a happy face and pretend that everything's all right. The martyr also is concerned about how people perceive you, but the martyr really tells you that your needs don't matter, that everybody else's needs matter more than yours. Your job is to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. Your job is to manage the emotions of everybody else. Your job is to try and make sure that everybody else is happy, that everybody else is cared for. And the more that you do that, then maybe you'll be able to get enough brownie points to prove that you're enough. But your job is really to hold up everybody else and to throw yourself under the bus. The impotent one is kind of like Eeyore, tells you that nothing you do is ever going to matter, that No matter how hard you try, you're never going to find financial freedom. No matter how hard you try, this is never going to work out. You're never going to be liberated from these generational chains. You should just give up, let somebody else handle all this stuff so you don't have to worry about it, because it's just never going to get any better. Just give up. And then the last one is the rebel. And the rebel says, screw it, do whatever you want. You're the one, you can make your own choices. Forget what other people think. Forget about the consequences. Forget about how it might cause harm. If you want to do it, you should just do whatever you want. And it doesn't matter because you're all that. So who shows up?
Yeah, well, I really welcome all of them, but they don't all carry different amounts of energy. So
Mm-hmm.
some of them are yeah, bigger and just carry more energy than others. So, but
Yep.
I really there's an invitation that they're all very welcome here, and I do take your invitation to.
So can I pause you for a sec? Do you just sit there? I'm
Absolutely.
going to say something to the
Sure.
listeners. Might be really surprised at hearing you say that, because most people, when I introduce the shadows, they're like, I hate these dudes. You've learned because of IFS that they're not here to hurt you. They're actually there to help you. So I just love that that's your perspective. I just wanted to say, like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, well, they're beings.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go off on my tangent here, but they are beings, and they're worthy of respect and personhood and dignity, and they're also parts of me,
Mm-hmm.
uh, mostly. And so, they're on my team, and they've been with me for a long time, and I hope to live long, and they'll be with me. And so, they're all welcome here, and so they all show up. But so some of them actually, I'm gonna have to open my eyes to
Yeah, you
do
can.
some
Yeah, you can. Yep.
recall here on as you were naming them. Let's go in reverse order. So the rebel, I have to keep my eye on him because he's been allowed to take control of the pilot the ship, so to speak. And there's some mistrust towards him. Um, like I'm in the I'm pretty much there on buying a new car, but there is a part of me that's like, is this car purchase like influenced by the rebel who's like, hey, you're turning 40 and you have like delayed certain like financial rules for a long, long time. And it's like, hey, you buy cars and you hold them for 15 years. This is gonna be with you when you're in your mid 50s. Like, let's get this car, right? And like wondering, okay, is that the rebel? But so that one shows up and is has a lot of access in my system. The
What does he
empath
look like?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in IFS, this guy would probably, in all likelihood, be labeled a firefighter, and he's. I do actually. I know you encouraged me not to visualize them as just let them be whatever they are. They might not be
Yep.
human, but he actually does show up like a 16-year-old me.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Which is
much.
fine,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
he's not you, right? That's a 16-year-old version of you, but that's not the you that exists today, right?
That's right. That's 100% right. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got he's wearing this this hand me down Bugle Boy shirt with cut off arms and like a Walkman and like rollerblades. He gives absolutely zero. Am I allowed to cuss on this
It's sure, of
podcast?
course.
Okay. He gives absolutely zero fucks. It appears that way.
Right.
But he's very much like he's in a way he's an advocate for what he believes is my values and
Mhm.
priorities. And not only that, because he's 16 and he may or may not know that I'm going to be 40, he's like, actually he knows that I'm not 16 anymore, but he's like, it's high time to like rebalance the scales. Like, we gotta, I don't want to use the word
Mhm.
overcompensate, make
Yep.
up for lost time, but those are the phrases that come into
And where in the
into.
room is he right now?
Yeah, he's here. He's like 2 arms lengths away on my right side.
Perfect.
Um yeah, and he's very welcome to be here.
Yeah,
I
of
do
course.
love him. Yes,
Oh, that's so awesome.
absolutely.
Who else is with you?
Yeah, so there's okay, the politician, actually, we're going to jump out of order. That doesn't matter. So the politician comes forward to, I think the ones I'm naming first probably are the ones with more energy, right? That
Yep.
they take up more space.
Yep.
So the politician, as you were describing, that role is very much like, okay, keep peace. I don't know that it's so much about like he needs votes, but he's really, I mean, he certainly doesn't want to displease people. So he very much, his like motto is like, okay, like how can we make my wife happy? How can we make my
Mm.
parents happy? How can we like, like the peacekeeper sort of.
Yep.
And how does he show up? Um he's I don't have a clear color, shape, or form with him right now,
Mhm.
but the energy is like he carries a heaviness. He carries the fear inside of him.
Mm.
He's absolutely driven by the fear of what I was naming earlier, of like being punished by my parents, or being disconnected from my wife. If I make some sort of a um if I don't back her up, like if I don't like which I agree with, like but if I inadvertently do something or say something that somehow unintentionally like betrays her or doesn't kind of take her side, then that's really that's a future to be avoided. He's scared of that, so he carries these burdens of fear in him, and he very much does want to. When the topic of finances comes up, he's right. I mean, he's kind of here on my left now as I name him, and he very much feels like a burdened advisor. He's very
Mm.
ready to jump in and make sure that like everyone is not in conflict.
So 3 phrases that he says to you.
Yeah. So he actually advises me to be patient. Cause let me make sure I'm getting this from him. Mm-mm. Yeah, that was coming from another manager part. So his it was there and then it went away. Hang on a second.
Ask him what he's
Yeah, he
afraid
says
of.
he says don't upset them. That's what he says.
Mm.
He's afraid of upsetting my loved ones. He's afraid. And by the way, one of these other parts is pointing their fingers at him
Mm.
being the he's like, this is your reason why Robin talks about like betraying himself. It's this guy. Like,
Oh,
right? Like they
it's
shine
your fault,
that
politician.
they take this big golden spotlight and shine it right on him.
How does he respond to that?
he I'm going to speak for my own feelings as I witness that those internal dynamics, as I feel a lot of sadness for him, a lot of compassion for him, and appreciation for him, because as he says, when the spotlight goes on him, he says yes. He says, yes, I am responsible. He knows it, and he doesn't want to be. He does not want to contribute to the downstream effects of betrayal. He says, that's the tragedy. He's like, yeah. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't fight back. He pretty much says, yes, I am the reason. and I had to do it.
Because
And so that's why I have so much compassion for him.
I love that you love him. Oh my gosh, it makes me so happy. Ask him how much he's worried about, because you've mentioned it before, the ancestors. How much does he have to do with the ancestors? Not letting them down.
I need to come back to that question because I just was. It was not just compassion for him. I was also pretty, in IFS we use the word blended. I was pretty blended with this just very deep just sadness. So it was, compassion's not always just just two tones of sadness. There can be other flavors of sadness. So I'm asking that sadness to give me some space, and I totally get why it's grieving, and I just want to ask you to give me that question again, Troy. I'm here and present.
Okay, we can take it as slowly as you want.
No, I'm good. I just needed to ask for space, and I've got it. So
perfect. Can you ask him, or either I'm asking you, or you can ask him, how much he's worried about your ancestors? Because you've mentioned that before, that not betraying the ancestors. How much is he worried about you disappointing them?
No, he doesn't have loyalty conflicts with ancestors. He has, not above my parents. So his concern is about. Let me make sure I don't have other parts that are like best interest attorneys answering on his behalf once that happens. Let me ask him. It's not about ancestors. No, his main focus is on protecting me from being disconnected from the people who are supposed to love me. So his big fear is, if conflict happens, if I the politician in this case, if we want to use that word, if I let another one of these shadows of shame, if I let another the rebel, or probably the rebel, right? If I let the rebel speak up and say what's really being carried and really being felt, um, then bad things will happen. Those bad things specifically being disconnection. I will be disconnected from. That's what he believes, that I'll be disconnected from my family. Not like cut off, but
Right.
like, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he takes it that severely, but just the disconnect in any event of. Yeah, that's what his
So which
concern
one
is.
is worried about your ancestors?
Mm. The judge.
Mm. Tell me about
Yeah,
him.
absolutely. The judge, yeah, because the judge is like, you know, the judge is burdened, but it's not like he doesn't have some relaxed, wise discernment inside of him. The judge is very much like, look, your grandfather like grew up in, I don't want to say abject poverty, but like he without getting too lengthy, it's like he's like, yeah, your grandfather was super disciplined. Uh, he's this like, well, again, I have other parts that are like whole, there's exceptions to all these like lionizing of someone, right? Like, but I'll just stick with what the judge is saying. The judge is saying, um, the judge agrees with the spirit of responsible wealth management and saving, and putting money into your retirement, paying yourself first and squirreling away stuff. So he's on board with that, like intellectually. Um, and he too, the judge, looks at the rebel as being a threat to, like, if we let this rebel like just like take over the cockpit, right? If we let this rebel make the decisions, this 16-year-old is gonna like buy all this expensive like music gear and like make a studio in his house. Like he's just gonna like and he's not gonna have the higher perspective and the wise discernment of future consequences and which again, I'm saying me is not true, but that's what the judge
Right.
believes and fears
Exactly.
about the rebel taking too much control. And so the judge has the conflict of okay, if the rebel does all that, then it totally betrays all the hard work and sacrifice. I mean, we're talking a lot of sacrifice. And so it's
Mm,
like it almost like it's an insult to the sacrifice of the ancestors.
got it.
Um, so that's what he has to say about it. He's like, granddaddy and grandmommy like worked real hard and they came from modest beginnings and they were able to like gift their grandchildren these like relatively large sums of money because of the discipline and the self-control and so that's what the judge is kind of. Am I answering your question, Troy?
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah.
What does he look like?
Yeah, and I don't it's not as clear as a visual or an image. Yeah, he likes to really hang out in the shadows, this one,
Mm,
because I don't see him at all,
what does he
but
sound like?
I feel his yeah, what does he sound like? He's not very emotional. He's not like Spock, right? But he's not he's not very emotional. He is like there's a part of me that's like interpreting. I just need to ask this part to lay back because it's interpreting what he's saying in a different. He's putting like one of my friend's filters over, like, so he sounds like my friend's voice, but he doesn't need to do that. Like, actually, when I listen to the raw data of what he sounds like, he he doesn't have this kind of like, oh, you better watch out, or else, because if you do that, it has that kind of cadence. This is what it's like another part of me is putting this filter on him. But when I hear directly from the judge, it's pretty much just like, um, yeah, not monotonous, but gentle, actually, pretty gentle. So he's not one of these harsh judges, but he's pretty. Um, it's a he, and he's more than soft spoken, but not like emotional. I don't know else to describe it. And I
It's
also
good.
don't get any visual. I just sense his energy.
He's just hiding in there in the dark.
Yeah, he's not behind me either. He's just nearby. That's all I get.
That's good.
Hmm.
Are there any others that are predominantly a part of this?
Well, I'll tell you, that's the one that's like the royal has been from a very early age. The royal, people can't see, but I'm sitting at a desk and I'm imagining open up the desk drawer, and inside of the bottom desk drawer there's a box, and inside of that box there's a little jar, and inside of that little jar there's a little like thing that might hold like a ring or something. It's like inside of that ring box there's another little secret door. If you get my point, he's really buried.
Mm,
Um, he's really buried, which is not healthy and good. But he is because the thing that when you were describing these roles, there was something that was drilled home for me when I was very young, and I agree with it. Which is, you're no better than anyone else, and no one else is better than you. And it is the like I strongly feel that, and so but it's like, I get curious, like, who the hell feels like this guy's so dangerous that we have to put him inside of, like, 8 layers like Fort Knox over here? So he is, like, disavowed. I don't wanna he's like, might as well be exiled, but he is there. He's just behind many, many layers.
what does he say to
S
you?
so his message is, like, "You deserve happiness." He's like, "You des" he's his you asked the question, like, what 3 phrases, like, I just get 1 phrase, and he's like, "You deserve it.
Mm.
You deserve it." And he's pointing to the new Lexus that I haven't bought yet. So that's why he goes, "You deserve it. You
Mm.
deserve it." But he's really saying, "You deserve to be happy." And to which, like, I have a philosopher part that's like, "Look, that's like,
Bullshit.
we just want to be like equanimous, we want to
Yeah.
be just satisfied, live a meaningful life. We're not always gonna hit happiness here, But I
Uh,
get it. I also appreciate the spirit behind that message.
Good. All right. So you're already doing some of this already, but I want you to just kind of look around the room where they all are, even if you can't see the judge per se, and just let them know that you see him. And how do they respond? They're seen.
Do you know, I actually, when I relate to the judge, even though there's not a strong internet connection with him, right? Like, I actually feel a little small, right? I feel maybe I'm blended with the impotent one here.
Mm.
When I relate to the judge, I actually feel smaller. Not totally diminished, but um I not, and also not totally deferential, right? Like, but I do feel like, uh, it's funny, like, ashamed is, there's a flavor of that, there's a pinch of shame when I relate towards the judge, because yeah, this judge is really just trying to honor. He really is this, like, he's trying to honor the family. He's trying to, excuse me. He's trying. He doesn't. The judge doesn't feel any kind of a loyalty conflict. The judge is just like, it's pretty clear. It's pretty simple. He's just like, he's basically like an advocate of my ancestors, and like being, yeah, discerning and balanced, not like living with extremes of like, we just gotta like fucking hoard everything and like never go on vacation. I mean, he's not like that. He's pretty balanced.
Does he think it's okay to buy a Lexus?
Getting interference here. The moment I ask that question, I'm getting interference, Troy.
What
Hold on.
happens?
That's funny. Yeah, he's like, it's not, that's so funny. I don't know who was interfering, but I just asked them for some space. And yeah, he's like, he almost kind of, he's not trying to be insulting or disrespectful, but he's like, that's not the right question.
What is the right question?
Yeah, he says, it's not about the Lexus.
What is it about?
Yeah. Hmm. I'm just moved by his, it's about making sure that you and your loved ones, I just, it's about making sure you and your loved ones are provided for, have enough, are safe, don't have to live in pain and fear and panicking about how to eat the next meal, etc. Like, so it's really, he says, it's not, I'm like paraphrasing. I have like a translator that's like, fucking get a Mercedes, whatever. It's not about that, right? He's like, but he doesn't have that attitude. That's not from him. That's
I
from
understand. That's the rebel over there.
Or some comedian part. I don't know. But
Yeah.
so he very much is like, it's about having. So he's not like, you have my blessing to buy a Lexus. He's just like, it's about your loved ones, and particularly not just like up the generational hierarchy, like, oh, like your aging parents will be taken care of, but he very much is also pointing to like the next generation and making sure, like, yeah, are they gonna be taken care of? That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And he as a judge, he's actually like, it's not my job to make the judgment on whether you should do A or B or C. He's like, I'm here to judge you whether you're like honoring that ethos.
Mm.
That's his, I mean, you probably know this, Troy, like we have more than one one critic in there,
Oh yeah,
more than one. Some of us have a whole goddamn team of critics.
absolutely.
But yeah, that's this one's job is really just about like honoring the value of making sure that people have enough and making sure that doesn't, get squandered or go overboard by the rebel. And by the way, just as a commentary, my dad probably, it's like the my dad's energy and this judge's energy and his father's energy are like pretty like a great conjunction, right?
Mm.
And of like, and like treating me as if I am just totally the rebel and nothing else and not more nuanced. So that's kind of the low resolution
Got it.
tragedy of how I'm in this situation that I'm in right now currently. Um, yeah.
So you're doing so good. I love, I love
Mhm.
that you're doing this so great. So if you listen to these guys, how do you normally end up behaving?
I listen to which ones?
Any of them? If you buy into what they're saying,
Hmm. Hmm.
depending, so you might behave differently if you buy into the rebel
Yeah.
versus if you
Yeah.
buy into the judge. Like, but if you do, if you buy into them, how do you end up behaving, and how does that affect your relationship, especially with your wife?
Mm. Again, my intellectual guy has like he has like the canned answer. I'm asking him to relax and not give this like this is the socially desirable answer, Robin. You're on air. I'm just asking the intellect to just kind of relax. Oh, make space for honesty here. Which one? Sorry, by the way, which one lies? Did you
Well,
say
they
the
all
politician?
lie.
They all lie. That's true. That's great. That's good instruction for all the listeners. They all lie. But when you were categorizing all of them, was it the didn't you say one of them lies more than the other? I thought I remember you did, but that's
They
okay.
all
But
they all tell half truths.
yeah, yeah. Let me come back to your question. How am I behaving if I am listening to them or led by them? Is that right?
Yep.
Is that the question?
If
Yeah.
they hijack you.
Yeah. Well, if they hijack me, I take on their energy. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically, and I promise this isn't coming from my intellect, but it sounds very much like it. It's how I behave is I take on their energy and I take on their viewpoint, their perspective, which is limited. Um,
And when you
yeah,
do that, what do I, or watching you do that at home, what would I see you doing?
yeah. Let's use the rebel as an example. Yeah, you would see me making a decision like let's use an example. I told you I'm an open book. Let's use an example about like drug use. So the rebel might be like, okay, like we've gotten all of our responsibilities done. We're good. Like again, he also kind of carries the message of like you deserve to feel relaxed or you deserve to feel comfortable. So he'll be like, yeah, let's take a couple puffs of cannabis, right? And so when he blends with me and I take his energy of like let's just like yeah, this is like right now like he doesn't have the perspective of the too far he can see like maybe 20 yards in front of him but he can't see 100 yards or even like he doesn't have great foresight um and that energy is uh rather impulsive and rather liberating, for the record.
Mm-hmm.
um, so that's what you would see. You would see me perhaps right? Like, not perhaps, you would see me, like, essentially sacrificing and making compromises of maybe something other potentialities in the future of my day, right? Like if at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like smoking a bowl and then like I could have done these other things and like been super productive. But instead, like the rebel just wants me to relax. And then she's like, okay, well, let's just like, we'll just take like one hit of the bowl. Right. And then like, then we do that and then we relax, then you'd see that happening. But what you would also, if you had X-ray vision and you had a microphone on my head, you would also hear a different judge, a different critic being like, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? And he's not talking to me necessarily. He's talking to the rebel
Mm-hmm.
and saying, like, well, now you're not going to go do X, Y, or Z because you're going to feel too ashamed to like show up, with like red eyeballs, and like cotton mouth or whatever, right? Like, so it just kind of creates not a shitstorm, not entirely a shitstorm, but it creates a conflict.
Mm.
And there's like a, I don't want to say there's a cleanup crew, but they're impacted. The rest of my system's impacted because this one part got control of the ship for 5 minutes, and now suddenly our afternoon looks a little different.
Right.
I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. How does that impact your relationship with your wife
I
or
love your
your
questions,
girls?
Troy. I love these questions. Yeah, okay, let's do the girls because yeah, last night actually, I smoked and my after my girls were asleep, and then my daughter comes downstairs. She can't fall asleep because she's having some conflicts at school with like friends, like 8-year-old friend woes, and I kind of escort her back upstairs, and we're talking, but she she goes, "What's that smell?" And I go, she says, "It smells like gasoline." Oh, I'm so glad to be telling you this. That's because years ago, when I was like in the garage, I was probably mowing the lawn. I was in the garage and I hit the bowl, and she came out in the garage and she goes, "What's that smell?" And my shame, I don't know which one of these guys did it, but my shame uh lied to her and said, "Oh, that's gasoline." And bless her heart, years later, she's like, "It smells like gasoline, right?" Like, this is not gasoline. But why do we lie? We lie because we're feeling ashamed, fear, shame. So that's how it's impacting is um, you know, the behavior or the choice point of one part, in this case, the rebel, IFS terms, a firefighter, uh, who's got some relationship issues around this substance, and then right about like hiding or like feeling fear of what would have me. I don't want to go on a tangent about the fact that it just got rescheduled as a class 3 and it used to be up there with like
I
fucking
know.
heroin and shit. But
Yeah,
anyway, you're hearing from the rebel. I think that's the
I
rebel
know.
being like, what the fuck? Um, but yeah, that's how it's impacting is hiding and lying, which is a total betrayal, a total self betrayal of my values and sense of integrity and sense of honesty. And boy, oh boy, it kind of doesn't get deeper than when you're lying to your child.
Mm.
Um, yeah. I'm glad to be telling you this. I'm glad to be telling it on air. I don't that's okay with me. Really okay with me. I have 100% parts consent here. I don't have any parts being like, "What are you doing, Robin? You're don't," that's not really there. It's actually a relief. It's a relief to be able to name it.
Well, your transparency is beautiful.
Thank you.
No judgment from me either, bro. Thank you. So I want you to just kind of look around the room and see him again
Mm.
and let him know you see him. And then, as you've already been doing, but tell them thank you for trying to protect you from further hurt, further pain. Just notice what they do.
Yeah, some of them are receive that appreciation, what's the word? They receive it maturely. I mean, they receive it in a way that feels less wounded. Others of them receive my appreciation and are pretty pissed at me. Um, Not for disclosures. They're pissed at me for like, like it took you being on Troy's podcast to like connect with, like right, right, like that's what they're doing. They're like, you're a therapist. He's like, you practice what you preach, and
Oh man.
it took you going on mic with Troy to like get this deep with me. So they're pretty pissed. Not all of them, some of them. Um,
Mm. Well, their anger is welcome here.
it is. Well, it's also an energy that I get. Well, I totally get it. I get it.
So, can you invite them to kind of step back into the dark so that it's just you without them? So, even if they are a part of you, they are not you. You are a being of light, being of love, being of kindness. So, if you can tap into your true self for a second, along with this woundedness is that core belief that says, I'm not allowed. And if you tune into your light, your truth, you kind of do a body scan, body. You're going to ask your body, your soul, a question, not your mind, not your intellectual self. What is actually true? Not Robin.
The question is, what is actually true about Robin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do have a very strong team of doubting parts. So I'll just let you know what happened when you asked that question. The message was, you are already free. And then the team of doubting parts came in and said, is that really your authentic voice? Right. That they say, is that your intellectual, the answers in the back of the healer textbook, right? Like, so that those doubters say that. But that was the first thing that I got. You are already free, and it seemed to come from my heart, deep inside of my heart, and it was directed towards specifically the conflict and the tension in my throat. So my throat in my body is, I'm reporting just for listeners to follow the plot here, that like it was when you asked everyone else to step back, and I'm a being of pure love and light, and but the tightness around my vocal cords, my neck, my voice, that never relaxed. That was yeah, I don't know, like have like if someone pulls in front of you in traffic and your heart like temporarily like drops on the floor, it's like it has this pulling down sensation in my voice, in my throat, and so there seems to be this directionality from my heart towards that place of tension that says, you are already free.
So, what color is that energy coming from your heart?
Mm, that's really beautiful. It's gold and pink. Which I'm laughing because those are my daughter's favorite colors. It's gold and pink.
So, can you just imagine, like, with every breath you take, that energy coming from your heart just goes into your throat chakra, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
and just kind of does something with it. Or you notice.
I do notice the presence of what in IFS we call protective parts. I noticed the presence of a protector that's like this like IFS student part that like knows the manual, like knows the protocol and the healing steps, and it's like coming up here and it's like, okay, so Troy just asked you to like send this light up to this like part in the throat. But like, are we bypassing any other protector? Are we doing this without anyone's permission? Like, so it's this like not a know-it-all, but like a what one of my parts says, like a goody two shoes, like let's follow the teacher's like directions, like let's do it the right way. So it's just, and it might not even realize that it trying to do the right thing is actually blocking the flow of what's happening. So I'm just asking. That's what I noticed, and I'm asking it. Thank you for trying to not piss off any parts that are not on board with this internal process, but just asking it if it would relax back, and thank you for trying to be respectful of my whole system, but that it's okay that I'm here, and it's okay to allow this. And it does. It softens. And it's like, okay. It's like, don't say I didn't tell you. Like, but I'm just getting curious if there's any other blockages or shadows or obstructions between what's going on between my heart and my throat. It really feels like it's the energy in my throat is sinking down into my heart, and being sort of bathed in this golden pink light. As if the light is inviting it to come down instead of going up to it. It's like
Got it.
you can drop down into, like, come on into the spa, like the water's warm. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I feel the heaviness lightening, like getting lighter.
What is your new truth?
Yeah, it's very clear. I can say what I'm needing and wanting and feeling, and I'll be safe and protected. I won't be. Well, it's a little complicated at the end there, what it says. It kind of says, I can say what I want and need and feel and think, and I won't be hurt. And the reason why I stumbled a little bit at the end is because there's this technical part that's like, well, I can't guarantee that people won't try and say things that could be, intended or unintended to hurt you, but like, there's a protection and there's a safety in what IFS calls self energy, or this love light, this pure essence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and the ball, the tightness, the tension in the voice and the throat, a lot lighter. There's still it's not 100%. There's no bullshit here. There's like 10% of it still there. So I wonder if I have an intellectual part that's like, I wonder if it kind of is just like, we'll see it to believe it, but it's 90%. That light was able to take away that fear.
So if I'm hearing you, the core belief is I can speak my wants, my needs, and my emotions. We're gonna shorten that up.
And yeah, that I'm allowed to speak. Yeah,
I'm allowed to speak.
I'm allowed to. Yeah.
Beautiful. So even if it's not 100%, where do you feel that in your body?
Hmm. Yeah, in the throat, in the voice
Mm,
box.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then from this truthful place, what do you need? And this is a tricky question because I'm not asking you what do you need to do. What do you need?
Courage.
And who
Courage and connection. Um, uh, it's really this is what the part that's the energy that's in my throat that's the part is carrying. It needs uh, courage and connectivity, connection with my essence, myself. That's what it needs. Not yeah, it doesn't need to do anything.
yep,
There's a call to action about other parts being like, we need to tell dad how we feel, like, but it just needs the courage from self, the kind of companionship or connectivity with self.
how can you get it?
It's really it's really me connecting to the one in my throat. So, how can it get it? Well, that's by me being a good parent. Maybe it's by me checking in with it and being aware of it when it's talking to me through sensation. Um, and also being aware of the other cast of characters that are interconnected with this dilemma, with this historical dilemma, anyway, I should say.
So breathe into the energy one more time and see yourself sitting at that desk, pondering upon the financial future, and notice what's different.
Well, the me who's at the desk with his head in his hands, elbows on the desk and head in his hands, he's not doing that anymore. And he is kind of sitting upright. His hair is still like a little disheveled from where his hands were resting on his head, but he's upright. And the two thought bubbles uh, with my wife on one side and my parents on the other, um, the bubbles are still there. The sentiment of it's actually a radical act of respect to speak your truth when you've been holding on to, when you've been not hiding, but when you haven't been willing to speak it. It's actually like, so there's a message that goes to this guy who's at the desk with the two thought bubbles of parents and wife, and the message to the guy at the desk is you're actually respecting them more by saying what you think and feel and want and need. And the guy at the desk doesn't really feel so much of that conflict with wife, feels it much more with parents. And that's kind of where that message is needed on that bubble towards the parents. And he looks like he's just got more confidence and more clarity. Yeah.
You did a beautiful job, man.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you. Thank you for your guidance and your loving energy, your patience, um, and your questions. There were several points in this time here where your questions themselves they landed on me with a sense of um, healing beauty. They were that, like, if a question could open a door that wasn't actually locked but that appeared like it was locked, the question did that and opened it up. And by the way, not just opens the door for like the passage of things, but it really is the passage of light to come in, right? I really, really appreciated some of those questions more than others. They really, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here with me, man. You
Yeah,
are a beautiful soul.
thank you. It was an honor to sit with you. Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Grateful, grateful. Um, uh, yeah, I'm sure there's others, but that one is taking up the most room here. It's just a lot of gratitude towards you, um, and the opportunity and the space for um, having a session and bringing more healing not only to myself, but for anyone who may have resonated with these stories and these dilemmas in their own life. Lots of gratitude for any potentially vicarious healing that it could have brought others.
Me too. You and I both, I think, have experienced that. And somebody has the courage to step into this arena, we are doing other people's work for them. And it's very beautiful to watch. Well, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you, Troy. You do the same.
I will. Thank you. You're amazing.
You've been listening to the Finding Peace podcast. If you love the show or want to ask a question, let us know by going to findingpeaceconsulting.com. There, you can also learn about the Finding Peace 5-Day Challenge. Remember to subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss the next episode. And if you are listening on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. It really does help other people find this podcast more easily. Thank you for spending part of your journey with us. And a special thanks to Johnny Porter for producing the show, and A.G. Flux for the new background music. Copyright Finding Peace Consulting.